Maria Santos walked slowly down the long hospital hallway. Her cleaning cart made a soft squeaking sound as the wheels turned. It was almost midnight and the hospital was quiet. Most patients were sleeping. The doctors and nurses from the day shift had gone home hours ago. Maria had been working at City General Hospital for 20 years. Every night, she came to work at 6 in the evening. Every morning, she left at 6 when the sun was coming up. She cleaned floors, emptied trash cans, and wiped down surfaces. Her hands were rough and dry from all the cleaning chemicals she used. She was 45 years old now. Her black hair had some gray streaks in it. Her brown eyes looked tired most of the time. Maria wore the same blue uniform every day. It had her name written on a small tag above her pocket. Maria had 7 children. When she was young, her family was very poor. They lived in a small apartment with thin walls. Her mother worked at a factory during the day. Her father was not around much. There was never enough money for anything extra. Music lessons, new clothes, or toys were things other families had. Not Maria's family. When Maria was a little girl, her mother sometimes told stories about Maria's grandmother. Her name was Rosa. Rosa could play the piano beautifully. She played at the local church every Sunday. People would come from other neighborhoods just to hear her play. But Rosa died when Maria was only 3 years old. Maria could not remember her grandmother at all. Maria's mother would say Rosa had magic in her fingers. She could make the piano sing like a bird. But these were just stories to Maria. She had never seen a piano up close. She had never touched one. As Maria grew up, music seemed like something for rich people. She went to school, but it was hard to focus when she was hungry. When she turned 16, she started working to help her family. She cleaned houses during the day and went to school at night. Later, she got married and had 2 children of her own. Her husband left when the children were small. Maria had to work even harder to take care of them. That's how she ended up at the hospital. The job paid enough money to rent a small apartment and buy food. It had health insurance too. Maria's children were grown up now. Her son lived in another state. Her daughter lived nearby but was busy with her own family. Maria lived alone in a tiny apartment with 1 bedroom. Every night at work, Maria followed the same routine. She started on the first floor and worked her way up. She cleaned the emergency room first. There were always messes there, blood on the floor, coffee spills, and trash everywhere. Then she cleaned the patient rooms. She was very quiet so she would not wake anyone up. The hardest part of her job was cleaning the rooms where people had died. The families would be gone by the time Maria got there, but she could still feel the sadness in the air. She always said a little prayer before she started cleaning those rooms. Around 2 in the morning, Maria would take her break. She would eat a sandwich she brought from home and drink coffee from the machine in the hallway. Sometimes she would walk around the hospital to stretch her legs. The night security guard, Tom, would wave at her. He was the only other person awake in the whole building most nights. One night, Maria was walking during her break when she noticed something. There was a small room she had never really looked at before. It was the hospital chapel. The door was always open during the day, but at night it was dark inside. Maria looked in and saw rows of chairs facing the front. There were some flowers on a table, and in the corner, there was an old piano. Maria stepped inside the chapel. It smelled like flowers and wood polish. The piano was brown and looked very old. The bench in front of it had a few scratches on it. Maria had never been this close to a piano before. She looked at the black and white keys. There were so many of them. She wondered what it would sound like if she pressed one of the keys. But she was afraid someone might hear her. What if she was not supposed to touch it? What if she broke something? Maria looked around to make sure no one was watching. Then she quickly pressed one white key in the middle. The sound was soft and pretty. It made Maria feel something strange inside her chest, like a warm feeling that spread through her whole body. She had never heard anything so beautiful. She pressed the key again. Then she pressed the one next to it. That one sounded different, but also pretty. Maria looked at her watch. Her break was almost over. She had to get back to work, but something about the piano made her want to stay. She pressed a few more keys, very softly. Each one made a different sound. Together, they sounded like they were talking to each other. From that night on, Maria could not stop thinking about the piano. During the day when she was at home trying to sleep, she would remember the sounds the keys made. She would dream about pressing them again. When she came to work each night, she would finish her cleaning as fast as possible. Then she would walk by the chapel and look at the piano. For weeks, Maria just looked. She was too scared to go inside and touch the keys again. What if someone caught her? She was just a cleaning lady. She was not supposed to play the piano. But the feeling inside her chest kept getting stronger. It was like the piano was calling to her. One night, Maria could not help herself anymore. She looked around to make sure the hallway was empty. Then she went into the chapel and sat on the bench. The piano keys looked like they were smiling at her. She pressed the same key she had pressed the first time. The sound filled the quiet room. Then something amazing happened. Without thinking about it, Maria pressed another key, then another. Her fingers seemed to know which keys to press. She played a simple tune. It was not perfect, but it was music. Real music that she was making with her own hands. Maria could not believe what was happening. How did she know how to do this? She had never learned to play the piano. She had never even seen sheet music before. But somehow, her fingers knew what to do. It felt like the most natural thing in the world. When she finished playing the little tune, Maria sat quietly for a moment. She felt different, like something inside her had woken up after sleeping for a very long time. She looked at her rough, dry hands. These same hands that cleaned floors and emptied trash had just made beautiful music. Maria knew she had to keep this a secret, but she also knew she could not stay away from the piano. Something deep inside her needed to play it, something that had been waiting her whole life for this moment. The next night, Maria finished her cleaning work faster than ever before. She kept looking at the clock on the wall. She wanted to get to the chapel as soon as possible. Her hands were shaking a little as she put away her cleaning supplies. When she was sure no one was around, Maria walked quietly to the chapel. Her heart was beating fast. She felt like she was doing something wrong, but she could not stop herself. The piano was waiting for her in the dark corner. Maria sat on the bench and looked at the keys. In the dim light from the hallway, they looked like white and black teeth. She pressed the same keys she had played the night before. The simple tune sounded even prettier this time. She played it again, then tried to make it sound different. She pressed some of the black keys too. They made sounds that were different from the white keys. Some sounded sad, some sounded happy, some sounded mysterious. Maria played each key one by one, listening carefully to how they sounded. As the nights went by, Maria learned more about the piano. She discovered that when she pressed keys that were close together, they sounded nice. When she pressed keys that were far apart, they sounded strange. She learned that pressing keys gently made soft sounds. Pressing them hard made loud sounds. Maria also found something interesting inside the piano bench. When she lifted the seat, there was a space underneath. Inside that space were old pieces of paper with strange marks on them. The papers were yellow and felt soft like cloth. Maria had never seen anything like these papers before. She took one of the papers to the window where more light came in from the hallway. The paper had lines across it. On the lines were small round dots and other shapes. At the top of the paper, it said, "Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven." Maria did not know what any of this meant, but she thought it might be music. Maria tried to understand the dots and lines on the paper. She noticed that some dots were on the lines, and some were between the lines. Some dots were filled in black, and some were just circles. She wondered if these dots meant something about which piano keys to press. One night, Maria brought a small flashlight from home. She could see the paper better with the flashlight. She put the paper on top of the piano and looked at it while she played. She tried pressing different keys while looking at where the dots were on the lines. After many tries, Maria started to understand a little bit. When the dots were high on the lines, she should press keys on the right side of the piano. When the dots were low on the lines, she should press keys on the left side. It was like a secret code. Learning this code was very hard. Maria's head hurt from trying to understand it. Sometimes she felt like giving up, but something inside her would not let her stop. Every night, she came back to the piano. Every night, she learned a little bit more. Maria also started listening. to music on her old radio at home. She had never paid attention to music before, but now she heard things she had never noticed. She could hear different instruments playing together. She could hear how some sounds were high and some were low. She could hear how the music made her feel different emotions. When she heard piano music on the radio, Maria would try to remember it. Then at work, she would try to play the same sounds on the hospital piano. Sometimes she could figure out a few notes. Sometimes she could play a whole part of a song. One song she heard on the radio was very beautiful. It was slow and made her feel peaceful. The radio person said it was called Claire de Lune. Maria listened to it many times. She tried to play it on the piano, note by note. It took her weeks, but finally she could play a simple version of it. Playing that song made Maria feel something she had never felt before. It was like she was not just a cleaning lady anymore. When she played the piano, she felt important. She felt like she had something special inside her. But Maria was very careful to keep her secret. She only played when she was sure no one else was in the hospital. She always listened for footsteps in the hallway. If she heard someone coming, she would stop playing immediately and pretend to be cleaning the chapel. One night, something scary happened. Maria was playing a song when she heard voices in the hallway. Two doctors were walking and talking about a patient. Maria quickly stood up from the piano bench and grabbed her cleaning cloth. She started wiping down the chairs in the chapel. The doctors walked past without looking in. But Maria's heart was beating so fast she thought they might hear it. After that night, she was even more careful. She would walk up and down the hallway first to make sure no one was around. As weeks turned into months, Maria's playing got better and better. Her fingers moved more easily on the keys. She could play longer songs without making mistakes. She could even make up her own simple tunes. The strangest thing was that playing the piano felt natural to her. It did not feel like she was learning something new. It felt like she was remembering something she had always known. Sometimes she would play a song and realize she had never heard it before, but somehow, her fingers knew exactly which keys to press. Maria started to wonder about her grandmother Rosa. Her mother had said Rosa could play the piano beautifully. Maybe this ability to play music was something that ran in her family. Maybe it was something Rosa had passed down to her. Even though Maria had never met her, one night, Maria found another piece of paper in the piano bench. This one was different from the others. At the top, it said, "For the hospital chapel," in handwriting. Below that, someone had written music using the same dots and lines as the other papers. Maria tried to play this music. It was harder than the other songs she had learned. But as she figured out each part, she realized it was written specially for this piano in this chapel. Someone who had played this piano before had written a song just for this place. As Maria played this special song, she felt connected to whoever had written it. Maybe it was someone like her who had found comfort in playing this old piano. Maybe it was someone who understood that music could make a person feel less alone. Playing the piano was changing Maria in ways she did not expect. During the day, when she tried to sleep, she would think about music instead of worrying about money or feeling lonely. When she walked to work each evening, she would listen to the sounds around her differently. Car engines, footsteps, and voices all seemed like they could be part of a song. Maria's coworkers started to notice that she seemed happier. Tom, the security guard, said she was humming while she worked. The day shift supervisor mentioned that Maria was smiling more often. But Maria just said she was feeling good. She did not tell anyone about the piano. It was her special secret. 6 months had passed since Maria first touched the piano keys. Her fingers were no longer clumsy and uncertain. They moved across the keys like they belonged there. She had learned to play many songs from the old sheet music in the piano bench. Some were slow and peaceful. Others were fast and exciting. Maria had also discovered something amazing about herself. She could hear a song on the radio once and then play it on the piano. She did not need to see the sheet music. Her brain seemed to remember exactly how the song sounded. Then her fingers would find the right keys to make the same sounds. This gift surprised Maria more than anything else. She had never been good at remembering things. In school, she had trouble remembering her lessons. At work, she sometimes forgot which rooms she had already cleaned. But with music, her memory was perfect. One night, Maria heard a beautiful classical piece on her radio at home. The announcer said it was Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. The music was so lovely that Maria felt tears in her eyes. She listened to it 3 times before she had to leave for work. That night at the hospital, Maria sat at the piano and began to play. Without looking at any sheet music, she played the Chopin piece almost perfectly. Her fingers knew exactly where to go. The melody flowed from the piano like water flowing from a stream. As she played, Maria felt something she had never experienced before. It was like she was not just playing the music, she was living inside it. The sad parts made her think of all the lonely nights she had spent in her small apartment. The happy parts made her remember the few joyful moments in her life, like when her children were small and would laugh at her silly jokes. When she finished playing, Maria sat quietly in the dark chapel. She realized that music was not just sounds coming from a piano. Music was a way to tell stories without using words. It was a way to share feelings that were too deep to explain. Maria started spending more time at the piano each night. She would finish her cleaning work as quickly as possible, then hurry to the chapel. She was getting bolder too. Instead of just playing softly, she sometimes played with more feeling. She would press the keys harder when the music called for it. She would play slower or faster to make the songs more beautiful. The old piano responded to her touch like it was happy to be played again. Maria had noticed that some of the keys were a little loose. A few made sounds that were not quite right, but she learned to work around these problems. She would avoid the broken keys or press them more gently. Maria also started writing her own music. She did not know how to write the dots and lines on paper like the sheet music she had found, but she could remember the songs she created. She would play them over and over until they were perfect in her mind. Her original songs were different from the classical pieces she had learned. They told stories about her life. One song sounded like the feeling of walking home from work in the early morning when the city was just waking up. Another song captured the loneliness she felt on her days off, when she had no one to talk to. The most special song she wrote was about her children. It started soft and gentle, like a lullaby she used to sing to them when they were babies. Then, it grew stronger and more complex, showing how they had grown up and become independent. The song ended quietly, with just a few simple notes that sounded like love and letting go. One night, while Maria was playing this song about her children, something unexpected happened. She heard a soft sound behind her. She turned around quickly and saw a young woman standing in the doorway of the chapel. The woman was wearing scrubs like a nurse or doctor. She had tears in her eyes. Maria's heart started beating fast. She had been caught. Someone knew her secret now. She stood up from the piano bench, ready to apologize and explain. But the young woman held up her hand to stop her. "Please don't stop," the woman said quietly. "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." The woman introduced herself as Dr. Sarah Kim. She was a resident doctor who had been working late in the emergency room. She had heard the piano music and followed the sound to the chapel. "I've been listening to you play for weeks," Dr. Kim said. "Every time I work the night shift, I hear this incredible music coming from somewhere in the hospital. I finally figured out it was coming from here." Maria felt embarrassed and scared. She was sure she would lose her job. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know I'm not supposed to be playing the piano. I'm just a cleaning lady. I'll stop." But Dr. Kim shook her head. "Are you crazy? You can't stop. You're incredibly talented. Where did you learn to play like that?" Maria explained that she had taught herself using the old sheet music and by listening to the radio. She told Dr. Kim about how playing the piano made her feel. Dr. Kim listened with amazement. "I took piano lessons for 10 years when I was a kid, Dr. Kim said. "I was never half as good as you are. You have a natural gift." Dr. Kim asked Maria to play something else. Maria was nervous, but she sat back down at the piano. She played the Chopin Nocturne she had learned from the radio. Dr. Kim closed her eyes and listened. When the song ended, she was quiet for a long moment. "That was perfect, Dr. Kim finally said. "You played it better than most professional pianists I've heard." From that night on, Dr. Kim would visit the chapel whenever she worked late. She would sit quietly in one of the chairs and listen to Maria play. Sometimes she would request specific songs. Sometimes she would just let Maria play whatever she felt like playing. Dr. Kim told Maria about different composers and types of music. She brought her phone and played recordings of famous pianists so Maria could hear how they interpreted the same pieces she was learning. Maria absorbed everything like a sponge soaking up water. You should be performing, Dr. Kim told her one night. You shouldn't be hiding your talent in this chapel. But Maria shook her head. I'm nobody special, she said. I'm just a cleaning lady who happens to like playing piano. Dr. Kim disagreed. She could see that Maria had something rare and precious. Her playing was not just technically good. It had soul. It had emotion that came from years of hard work and quiet suffering. When Maria played, she transformed the simple chapel into something magical. As the months went by, Maria's confidence grew. She played more boldly, with more expression. She learned more complex pieces. She composed more original songs. The piano, which had been gathering dust for years, came alive under her touch. Maria still kept her playing mostly secret from the rest of the hospital staff. But now she had one person who understood her gift. Dr. Kim became like a friend to her. They would talk about music and life during Maria's breaks. For the first time in many years, Maria did not feel completely alone. The old piano in the chapel had given Maria more than just a hobby. It had given her a way to express herself. It had given her confidence. It had given her a friend. Most importantly, it had shown her that it was never too late to discover something wonderful about yourself. Dr. Sarah Kim could not stop thinking about Maria's incredible talent. Every day at the hospital, she found herself humming the melodies she had heard Maria play in the chapel. She knew that Maria was special, but Maria herself did not seem to understand just how gifted she was. Dr. Kim had grown up in a family that loved music. Her parents had paid for expensive piano lessons, sent her to music camps, and taken her to concerts at the Symphony Hall. Yet after years of training, she had never been able to play with the natural emotion and skill that Maria displayed every night in the chapel. One evening, Dr. Kim brought her tablet to the chapel. She wanted to show Maria something, but she was nervous about how Maria might react. Maria, she said carefully, I want to ask you something. Would you be okay if I recorded you playing? Just for a few minutes? Maria looked frightened. Why would you want to do that? Because I think other people should hear how beautifully you play. You have a gift that shouldn't be hidden. Maria shook her head quickly. No, I'm not good enough for that. I don't know how to read music properly. I make mistakes. I'm just learning. Dr. Kim sat down next to Maria on the piano bench. Maria, listen to me. I've heard professional pianists perform at Lincoln Center in New York. You play better than most of them. You have something that can't be taught in music schools. You have soul. After much convincing, Maria finally agreed to let Dr. Kim record her playing one song. She chose a simple piece by Bach that she had learned months ago. Her hands shook slightly as she began to play, knowing that the tablet was recording every note. But as the music began, Maria forgot about the recording. She forgot about her fears. She let herself get lost in the melody the way she always did. The chapel filled with the sweet, clear notes of Bach's Invention No. 1 in C major. Maria's interpretation was unique. She played some parts faster than the original, some parts slower. She added little decorations and changes that made the piece her own. When she finished, Dr. Kim was wiping tears from her eyes. That was perfect, Maria. Absolutely perfect. Dr. Kim watched the recording several times that night after she went home. She could not believe that someone with no formal training could play with such feeling and technical skill. She knew she had to share this with someone who would understand what they were seeing. Dr. Kim's best friend from medical school was Dr. Elizabeth Chen, who now worked as a surgeon at a different hospital. But Dr. Chen had an interesting background. Before she went to medical school, she had studied piano at the Juilliard School, one of the most famous music schools in the world. If anyone would recognize Maria's talent, it would be Dr. Chen. The next day, Dr. Kim called her friend. Elizabeth, I need you to watch a video. But first, let me tell you the story behind it. Dr. Kim explained about Maria, the night janitor who had taught herself to play piano in the hospital chapel. She told Dr. Chen about Maria's incredible natural ability and how she could play any song after hearing it just once. "Send me the video," Dr. Chen said. "I'm curious to see what you're talking about." Dr. Kim sent the recording of Maria playing the Bach piece. Then she waited nervously for her friend's response. 20 minutes later, her phone rang. "Sarah," Dr. Chen's voice was full of excitement. "Where did you find this woman? This is extraordinary. I've never heard anything like it." Dr. Chen explained that Maria's playing had several qualities that were extremely rare. First, her natural technique was nearly perfect, even though she had never had a lesson. Second, her musical interpretation was deeply personal and emotional. Third, her ability to learn music by ear was something that only a few people in the world possessed. "I need to meet her," Dr. Chen said. "Would she be willing to play for me?" Dr. Kim was not sure. Maria was very shy about her playing and did not trust easily, but she agreed to ask. The next night, Dr. Kim told Maria about her friend, Dr. Chen. She explained that Dr. Chen was a professional musician before she became a doctor. "She wants to hear you play," Dr. Kim said. "She thinks you're incredibly talented." Maria was terrified. "I can't play for a real musician. She'll know that I don't know what I'm doing." "Maria, you know exactly what you're doing. You've been doing it beautifully for almost a year now." It took several conversations, but Maria finally agreed to meet Dr. Chen. They arranged to meet in the chapel on a Saturday night when the hospital was quieter than usual. Dr. Chen arrived at 11 o'clock. She was a small woman with kind eyes and graying hair. She greeted Maria warmly and thanked her for agreeing to play. "I've heard you're self-taught," Dr. Chen said. "That's incredible. It usually takes years of training to develop the skills I heard in that recording." Maria felt more comfortable talking to Dr. Chen than she had expected. Dr. Chen asked about how Maria had learned to play and what music she enjoyed most. She did not make Maria feel ignorant or ashamed of her lack of formal education. "Would you play something for me?" Dr. Chen asked gently. Maria sat at the piano and played the same Bach piece she had recorded, but this time, she was more relaxed. She played with even more expression and confidence. When she finished, Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment. "Maria," she finally said, I want to tell you something. I spent 4 years at Juilliard studying piano. I practiced 6 hours a day. I performed in recitals and competitions. I thought I was pretty good." She paused and smiled. "You just played that piece better than I ever could. You have a gift that most musicians would give anything to have." Dr. Chen asked Maria to play a few more pieces. She played Chopin, some simple Mozart, and one of her own compositions about working the night shift. With each piece, Dr. Chen became more amazed. "Maria, I have to ask you something," Dr. Chen said. "Have you ever thought about sharing your music with more people? Maybe recording an album or giving a concert?" Maria laughed nervously. "I'm just a cleaning lady. People like me don't give concerts. People like you are exactly who should give concerts," Dr. Chen said firmly. "Music isn't about where you come from or what job you have. It's about touching people's hearts, and you do that better than anyone I've ever heard." Dr. Chen told Maria about her connections in the music world. She knew people at record companies, concert halls, and music festivals. She was sure that someone would want to help Maria share her talent with the world, but Maria was scared. She had spent her whole life being invisible. The idea of people watching her play and judging her was overwhelming. "Think about it," Dr. Chen said as she prepared to leave. "You have something precious, something that could bring joy to thousands of people. Don't you think they deserve to hear it?" After Dr. Chen left, Maria sat alone at the piano for a long time. She played softly, thinking about what Dr. Chen had said. Could her music really mean something to other people? Was it possible that a woman like her could have something valuable to offer the world? As she played, Maria thought about all the nights she had spent in this chapel. The piano had given her so much. It had given her joy, confidence, and friendship. Maybe it was time to let the piano give something to other people too. For the first time, Maria began to consider that maybe her secret talent was not meant to stay secret forever. 3 weeks after meeting Dr. Chen, Maria still had not made up her mind about sharing her music with the world. The idea excited her and terrified her at the same time. She continued her nightly routine of cleaning the hospital and playing piano in the chapel, but now her mind was full of questions about her future. Dr. Chen had been patient, but she called Dr. Kim every few days to check if Maria had decided anything. Dr. Chen had connections with people in the music business who were interested in hearing Maria play, but she would not push Maria into anything she was not ready for. One night, something happened that changed everything. Maria was in the chapel playing a soft, sad song she had written about missing her children. The song always made her feel peaceful and a little melancholy. She was completely absorbed in the music when she heard a sound behind her. She turned around and saw an elderly man standing in the doorway. He was wearing a hospital gown and slippers. He had a cane in one hand and was leaning heavily against the door frame. His face was pale and he looked very tired. "Please don't stop," the man said quietly. "That's the most beautiful thing I've heard in months." Maria recognized him. His name was Mr. Patterson, and he was a patient on the 4th floor. She had cleaned his room many times over the past few weeks. He had cancer and was getting treatments. That made him very sick. "I'm sorry," Maria said, standing up from the piano. "I didn't know anyone was awake. I should go." "No, please," Mr. Patterson said, walking slowly into the chapel. "I couldn't sleep. The pain is bad tonight. But when I heard your music, the pain seemed to go away for a while." He sat down carefully in one of the chairs. "Would you play something else? It doesn't matter what. Your music is like medicine for me." Maria sat back down at the piano. She played another gentle song, watching Mr. Patterson's face. As the music filled the chapel, she saw his tense expression relax. His breathing became slower and deeper. For a few minutes, he looked peaceful instead of sick. When the song ended, Mr. Patterson had tears in his eyes. "My wife used to play piano," he said. "She died 5 years ago. Hearing you play makes me feel close to her again." Over the next several nights, Mr. Patterson came to the chapel when he could not sleep. Maria would play for him, and he would sit quietly and listen. Sometimes he would tell her stories about his wife and how she used to play. Sometimes he would just close his eyes and let the music wash over him. Other patients began to notice Mr. Patterson's improved mood. He was sleeping better and seemed less anxious about his treatments. When people asked him what had changed, he would smile mysteriously and say he had found some good medicine. Word spread quietly through the hospital. A few other patients who could not sleep began making their way to the chapel during Maria's playing time. They would sit in the chairs and listen to the beautiful music coming from the old piano. Maria was nervous about having an audience, but she could see how much her music helped these sick people. They looked forward to hearing her play. It gave them something positive to think about during their difficult treatments. Dr. Kim noticed the change too. She saw patients who had been depressed and scared becoming more hopeful. She heard nurses talking about how certain patients were sleeping better and needing less pain medication. One night, about 2 months after Maria had first met Dr. Chen, something unexpected happened. Maria was playing for her usual small audience of patients when a woman with a professional camera walked into the chapel. The woman introduced herself as Jessica Martinez, a reporter for the local television news. Someone had told her about the mysterious piano music that was helping patients at the hospital. She wanted to do a story about it. Maria panicked. She had never imagined that reporters would find out about her playing. She tried to leave, but Mr. Patterson gently asked her to stay. "Maria," he said, "your music has been a gift to all of us. Don't you think other people deserve to hear about this gift?" The other patients nodded and agreed. They told Jessica Martinez how Maria's music had changed their experience in the hospital. They said her playing was better than any professional concert they had ever attended. Maria finally agreed to be interviewed, but only if her face was not shown on television. Jessica Martinez respected her wishes and filmed her from behind while she played. The news story aired 3 days later. It showed Maria's hands moving gracefully across the piano keys while patients listened with peaceful expressions. The reporter talked about how Maria had taught herself to play and how her music was helping people heal. The story was supposed to be just a local news piece, but something amazing happened. People shared the video on social media. Within a week, millions of people around the world had watched Maria play piano in the hospital chapel. The video went viral because it showed something pure and beautiful in a world full of bad news. People were amazed that someone with no formal training could play so beautifully. They were moved by the story of a cleaning lady who had discovered her talent late in life and was using it to help others. Record companies started calling the hospital, trying to get in touch with Maria. Concert halls offered to let her perform. Music teachers wanted to study her unique playing style. Maria was overwhelmed by all the attention. She had gone from being invisible to being famous almost overnight. Dr. Chen helped her navigate all the offers and opportunities that were coming her way. Eventually, Maria decided to make her first recording. She recorded an album of the songs she played in the chapel, including some of her own compositions. She called the album Night Shift Melodies because that's when she had discovered her gift. The album became a huge success. People loved Maria's emotional playing style and her inspiring story. She was invited to perform at famous concert halls, but she insisted on keeping her job at the hospital part-time. She still wanted to play for the patients who had supported her from the beginning. Maria used some of her success to help other people. She started a music program for children from poor families like hers had been. She wanted to make sure that other people with musical gifts would have the chance to develop them, even if they could not afford lessons. She also established a fund to buy new pianos for hospitals, nursing homes, and community centers. She believed that music could heal people in ways that medicine alone could not. At her first big concert at Carnegie Hall in New York, Maria dedicated her performance to all the invisible workers whose talents remain hidden. She played some classical pieces and some of her own compositions. The audience gave her a standing ovation that lasted for 10 minutes. After the concert, reporters asked Maria what she had learned from her incredible journey. "I learned that it's never too late to discover something beautiful about yourself," she said. "I also learned that talents are meant to be shared. When we keep our gifts hidden, we rob the world of something precious." Maria's story became an inspiration to people everywhere. It showed that extraordinary abilities can emerge from the most ordinary circumstances. It proved that music, like hope, can be found in the darkest places and can light up the world when shared with others. The old piano in the hospital chapel still sits in the same corner where Maria first discovered her gift. But now, it's played regularly by volunteers who learned about Maria's story and wanted to continue bringing music to patients. A small plaque next to the piano reads, "In honor of Maria Santos, who taught us that hidden talents are everywhere, waiting to be discovered."